resolutions of the National Assembly. It is pertinent to state here.
At the People's Building here in Abuja, it would never have been considered, and it will mean that some of the people who have this kind of outdated ideas would never have made it to even our Senate. That is the truth. The final thing I want to say is that this bill is dead. We are here to bury it.
I'll keep it simple. Self-preservation is a very basic human instinct. In fact, our laws recognize self-defense to the point of justifiable homicide. This, of course, will be absolutely unnecessary. There would be no need for regional security operations or calls from all manners of groups, the citizens, to defend themselves if our federal government here in Nigeria will work harder and their work show that they have a genuine commitment to uphold a core constitutional obligation to defend the lives and property of the people. Thank you very much for watching. The program returns same time, same station. And until I see you again, please be well.
I am under the bridge in Menday, Maryland, at the very popular Cane Village, particularly thrilled at the level of creativity being displayed in terms of the artworks here by the artisans. An array of weavers and sellers of baskets, chairs, and artistic household furniture made out of cane were all hard at work at the time of my visit to the Cane Village. The men, women, and children all seemed engrossed at their day's task. I was welcomed by the president of the Cane Weavers Association, Mr. Edward Apofure. According to Edward, the weavers and sellers were collectively relocated under this bridge in 2002. A hard miss for anyone coming from Ikeja or Ikorodu access. This is a fantastic location. How long has this Cane Village been in existence?
Well, the Cane Village has been existed for a long time ago. We rise from our forefather, who founded this industry, established it for year 1974. But we came to register this industry in 1986. It was registered as National Cane Weavers Association. So we have been existed for many years. Before we came on board, we have been a roadside seller, but the government said that they don't want anything else. Anybody want to operate such thing, you must come under union and register. From my observation, more elderly weavers were in sight as I pondered on the posterity of this age-long craft. What exactly does it take to learn this craft? How long would it take an average person to learn how to make something like this? If you want to learn this work, one thing you need to have is that you have to have patience. This work is not something you can just carry knife and do. You go for process. You got the material which is called cane. And from there, you scrape it. After you scrape it, you tear it. After you tear it, then you now carve it. And this chair you are sitting on today now, before we work on it, we have procedure go through before you come like this. We have the framework. After the framework, before you can weave on it. So learning this work is not really a bad thing, and to know this work is not a bad thing. I can tell you today now we are this business. We have many graduates in this business, and those who finish secondary school are here. Are they here? Yes, and some of them can even do this work, and now making their life better by go more further their education more. So we create job opportunity. This job is helping young people who are not lazy. I was eager to meet the university graduate who came into the business for what he described as a lack of jobs in Nigeria. According to the National Bureau of Statistics,
The unemployment rate bedeviling the country as of the third quarter of 2018 stood at 23.1%, hence putting the number of unemployed at 20.9 million.
I'm a graduate from University of Port Harcourt. I studied pure and industrial chemistry. I graduated the year 2010, did my NYSC in Ebonyi State, Zia Girls Secondary School in Zangbo. I left the NYSC the year 2014. So, but due to Nigeria and no job creation for we the youth, so we engage ourselves since Nigeria said that everybody should find themselves doing one or two things.
However grateful for the good gift of education, which he said was sponsored by his parents, with hopes of being employed after graduation, he fell back to this craft, which for him portends a means for better livelihood.
So I started doing it right from the year 1990. After my university, since there is no job, I have to fall back to what I know how to do best. So at least I can make money and take care of myself.
He described the various weaving techniques associated with the creation of a variety of cane-woven designs.
As you can see, this one, the cane comes from Delta State. It grows within the riverine areas. There's one that comes from Delta State, Bayelsa State, Rivers State, Edo State, Ondo State, and there are some in Lagos as well. But that in Lagos differs from the one that comes from Delta State. So, but we prefer the ones that come from Benin and Delta State. So that is where we have our suppliers from. So now this one is the cane. It's also the same cane that we use in caning kids in the school. So now for me to use this now, example, if I want to make these chairs now, like this one comprises of two materials. This one, there is the wooden part, which is the frame. Before you make the chair like this, you must make the skeleton, which is the frame with the wood. Then after the wood, then before you get your cane, then after the cane, you cannot just use the cane like this. If you can say that the color of this one and the color of this one, they are two different colors. Then when I get to this stage, now depends on what I want to use it for. Depends on what I want to do. If I want to do this chair, then definitely I'm to chair this into 4 pieces because I'm to use just the back of it. I won't use the inner of it. But if I want to do another design, maybe something like this, I'm going to use the inner of it and the outside.
While this craft had transcended many generations, I could tell it consumed a lot of production time, which affected the ability to meet up with purchase order demands from customers. For this reason, some of the weavers have employed the use of rattan made from polyester, a more expensive but efficient material imported into the country. Macaulay, however, confirmed my assumptions.
The manual processes delays the production. So, and that's the reason why these days we are now shifting from the cane aspects to the one we call the outdoor, the rattan process, which is now the one that has been done through polyester materials. But meanwhile, it's not being done in Nigeria yet, and it's more expensive compared to that of the cane. Like if you see these two materials now, they are different. This one is the rubber one. This one is made from polyester. Then why this one is a cane. So this one is faster in production compared to this.
While the cane weaving procedure can be done in isolation of things like electricity, the rattan procedure may use an electric-powered compressor or one which makes use of fuel. But due to the inconsistent power supply in the country, weavers such as Macaulay settled for compressors which make use of fuel.
Meanwhile, in doing this, there is no how I can do this. without the help of this gun and a compressor. Meanwhile, there is a stapler we put inside. Then with the help of the compressor, see, we use this to staple the rubber to it so that at least it can hold. That of the cane aspect of this craft is already weaving out due to the factor of producing it and getting of materials from the forest. And the forest where they get these canes from these days, like the people that supplies us the cane are complaining that the bush are already being burned. Now people that plant these days are now burning the cane. So before they get to the forest where they will get this cane now, it's very, very difficult for them. So now that's the reason why we try to advance into this new technology that the whites, the Americans, the Japanese, the Chinese, they are already using in their own country. And some Nigerians travel abroad and import this thing into Nigeria. If someone comes to me and said he wants this one, he wants like 15 sets of Dick's Dining within 1 week, I can boldly tell the client that he's going to pick it up. But that of the cane, even 1 month, it won't be ready due to the process of preparing your materials, getting your frames ready. Like that of the cane, a set of cane chair, please you get it for like 150,000, 170,000. But a set of rattan chair, the least amount you can get is 250,000.
This market right here does have a high level of economic benefit for the country if issues such as financial deficit as well as a restructuring of the business can't be done by the government. The weavers remain optimistic about their ability to expand and possibly export their products someday. Edward says financial aid from the government would go a long way.
The government shall now say, I want to give individual 500,000 to start. I tell you, when you invest 500,000 for this business by a year, by the end of the year, you will make a return of even 300,000 on top of that 500, even a million. Because during December time, the period of December, when many couples want to do outpass gift, they come here to have a demand of basket, many. Even when you do not have money, you can never meet up there because they will come, they will demand more than you don't even have. So, but you don't have money to do this, you cannot get it. But at that time, the price will even favor you because that time the price will wait up because there will much demand that time. So if the government help us, will give us money, we do this business, we keep them toward December time, we bring them for sale. You know, when you borrow money for bank, maybe all these bank microfinance now, you borrow today, tomorrow you are coming to collect the money from you. And this our business does not go like that. You see, we do the business, you give us money, you give us time to work with that money. So by the time maybe 7 months, 8 months, we started to pay. You know, we have produced something that by the time we carry the market where we want to sell, return that money back, it will not be a problem for us. But when you give me money today, tomorrow you are coming, you are trying to keep the business in my hand. You are not making my business to this. We are not buying and selling. It's not this buying and selling this thing. So it's something you produce before you can sell.
For Edward, financial aid from the government and a restructuring of their current location to take on a more tourist look would improve the shortfall in supply as well as make them more competitive in the global market, hence giving way to export.
Like this place we come to now, government can come to this place and turn it to tourist center as cane industry. So whereby they build a good structure and whereby people come and make their daily bread, whereby government can get sort of out of it. It's the looks of this our work now. You have to finish there to export them. It's another problem because we don't have the financial background to carry this work outside for people to buy. We only look at this rata work now. Before we don't know how to do them, but now we are now named them and we know how to do them. So all those things that are even we are going for abroad for, we have them. We have the knowledge, the people who are so intelligent to do this craft work here in Nigeria, in this cane industry. It's just what the government should come and ask us, how can we do it? And we tell them the other side of it, where we need their help.
Macaulay was gracious enough to take me around the cane village on a tour.
This is dining for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 chairs. There's going to be a glass of 10 mm on it, which is this. This is a glass. This glass will be on it. If I'm to produce this one now, to do this one alone, it's going to take me about 1 week to produce just one of this. But if I'm to do it in the rattan, it's going to take me maximum of 2 days. I'm done with it. This one cannot withstand the outdoor. It's not something that can withstand rain. And that one can withstand rain. This one is made with raffia. We'll call this one raffia. This material is sort. This material, we get this material from Cotonou. Something like this one now is about 2,000.
And how long would it take you to make it?
This one takes about 1 hour. So that's the reason why during the Xmas period, people don't even do chairs.
Amazing, amazing items. I certainly had fun here, and I did get myself some take home as well. For Plus TV Africa, I am Irene Ubani.
Hello and many thanks for joining us. News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are some of the stories making the headlines. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says that regular interface between the federal government and private sector is critical to the development of the economy, especially in creating employment. Osinbajo made this submission on Tuesday when he received on a courtesy visit at the presidential villa a delegation from the Kano Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Kasima, led by its president, Dahatu Abubakar. According to the vice president, continuous engagement between the public and private sector is important. Osinbajo said he was encouraged by the report he received from the delegation on the progress made by rice millers in Kano State. The vice president restated efforts being made by the federal government to further support agricultural production, including a collaboration with other partners using 12 dams across the country under the Transforming Irrigation Management Project. Osinbajo urged the business community in the state to support the free education initiative of the state government as a way of building the future workforce for the industries that would be established. Amid tumbling prices of crude oil, the federal government is set to cut the country's 2020 budget. President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to get a report from Budget Review Committee on what his administration can do to salvage the 10.59 trillion naira budget. The Budget Review Committee, which was set up by Buhari, is chaired by the Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed. Its primary duty is to review the $57 oil benchmark for the budget and ultimately recommend an appropriate size down from the current 10.59 trillion naira. Other members are the Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Timi Silva, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mele Kyari. Joining us via video call is an economic policy analyst, Gospel Obele. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we are faced with an oil price crash supposedly linked to the infamous coronavirus. Please make the link for us. For some of us who may not be in the know, what's at stake here?
So interestingly, the budget is built on the oil price, basically. Speaking to the revenue side of the budget. So when the oil price goes down, it affects the quality or quantity, per se, of revenue that comes in to finance the 2020 budget. On the other hand, it also affects the excess crude account, because it's usually the differences between the oil price and the budget assumption, which was pegged at $57 per barrel. That difference is what is being saved into the excess crude account. So what it means is, number one, the government doesn't have so much to finance the budget because there will be a drop in the revenue. And on the other end, it would mean that there will also be a fall in the foreign exchange earnings. And once there's a fall in the foreign exchange earnings, it means that there will be shortage of dollar supply to the economy. And because Nigeria is still largely an import-structured or import-dependent or a consumption-driven economy that is import-dependent, what that means is people who import will not have so much dollar to facilitate that trade. So it means that internally, for goods and services that are available, the prices of the price of these goods and services will increase. And then for goods that are going to be imported at a higher price because dollar is not readily available, that price would also be shifted to the final consumer. So government government will suffer from drop in revenue, and then the average consumer, the average Nigerian, will face more cost pressures as he goes around his normal business.
How can we compensate for the crash to avoid our economy being dramatically impacted?
So it's quite unfortunate that a lot of our policy initiatives and interventions and our moves, basically as a people, and majorly on the fiscal side, is reactive. Even down to the Finance Act is also reactive. So we've not, from the get-go, built strategies for revenue and engaged on a proactive end. So in terms of compensating, we will need to move from being reactive to being proactive. And part of being proactive is to focus on the non-oil side of the economy. And speaking to diversification also, the economy has been diversified in terms of sectoral input to GDP or sectoral contribution to GDP. What has happened is that the diversification program has not hit properly on the revenue side. So it means that the revenue base has not been diversified. And you have that because there's a lack of coordination, the proper or the required coordination amongst the institutions that are involved, in driving this. You also have that because there's a high informal economy. You also have that because the sectors that have been diversified on broken value chains. So it means that you don't have the structural basis for diversification. So the economy is diversifying based on individual or cluster activities, not based on the fact that structural deficits are being fixed. So to fix these issues will mean that our policies have to be a bit more proactive. Finance Acts or finance bills that have been introduced or reworked over the next coming years have to be more proactive than waiting for people to respond to a 7.5 VAT increase before you raise revenue, knowing fully well that once the oil price hits, your revenue drops. So we need to be more proactive with our policies and our bills. We also need to ensure that diversification hits properly on the structural issues, and then MDAs have the institutional capabilities and strength to move from just a diversified economy to improving the revenue base and supporting the ease of doing business.
For a long time, we have been chanting the mantra of a diversified economy. To what extent would you say we have made progress in this regard?
So quite clearly, the economy has been, to a fair extent, diversified, because we see that in the GDP numbers. For example, the oil economy for example, the oil sector now contributes about lower than 14%, to the GDP, and the agricultural sector or the non-oil sector contributes about 92%, to GDP. You also look at the structure in terms of agriculture, manufacturing, and services. You discover that services contribute about half of the Nigerian economy. The challenge with diversification is that a whole lot of the efforts have been in the informal space, or we have not built institutions.
What can we do to avoid being vulnerable to such power tussle and even acts of God, such as coronavirus in the future?
So it's quite unfortunate that a lot of our policy initiatives and interventions and our moves, basically as a people, and majorly on the fiscal side, is reactive. Even down to the Finance Act is also reactive. So we've not, from the get-go, built strategies for revenue and engaged on a proactive end. So in terms of compensating, we will need to move from being reactive to being proactive. And part of being proactive is to focus on the non-oil side of the economy. And speaking to diversification also, the economy has been diversified in terms of sectoral input to GDP or sectoral contribution to GDP. What has happened is that the diversification program has not hit properly on the revenue side. So it means that the revenue base has not been diversified. And we have that because there's a lack of coordination, the proper or the required coordination amongst the institutions that are involved, in driving this. You also have that because there's a high informal economy. You also have that because the sectors that have been diversified on broken value chains. So it means that you don't have the structural basis for diversification. So the economy is diversifying based on individual or cluster activities, not based on the fact that structural deficits are being fixed. So to fix these issues will mean that our policies have to be a bit more proactive. Finance acts or finance bills that have been introduced or reworked over the next coming years have to be more proactive than waiting for people to respond to a 7.5 VAT increase before you raise revenue, knowing fully well that once the oil price hits, the revenue drops. So we need to be more proactive with our policies and our bills. We also need to ensure that diversification hits properly on the structural issues, and then MDAs have the institutional capabilities and strength to move from just a diversified economy to improving the revenue base and supporting the ease of doing business. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gospel, for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Governor Nasir El-Rufai has appointed the deposed Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi, into the board of the Kaduna State Investment Promotion Agency, KADIPA. The appointment was announced the day after Sanusi was removed by the Kano State government as Emir of Kano. A statement issued on Tuesday in Kaduna by Special Advisor on Media and Communication to the governor said Sanusi would serve as vice chairman of the board. The board is chaired by the state deputy governor, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe. According to the statement, Kaduna State hopes to benefit from the profile, experience, intellect and networks of His Highness Mohammed Sanusi, who before becoming Emir had built a solid reputation in global financial circles. KADIP had anchored implementation of the Ease of Doing Business Charter that earned Kaduna State recognition as the #1 place for doing business in Nigeria. Amnesty International is dissatisfied with the enthronement of the former Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II. In a series of tweets on Tuesday, the group faulted the